Thank you all for joining us today and taking the time out of your busy schedules. But I appreciate you being with us. For many of you, I know this will be the first time that you've closed out a program with our office. And so we felt it was really important to offer this opportunity to go through the closeout process and answer any questions that you have. Before we do get started on that, though, there's just a few administrative things that I want to cover. In order to get through the information, we're going to mute everyone's microphones and just ask that if you have questions that come to mind during the presentation, please throw those into the chats session of this meeting. We will go through those at the end as time allows, and then we will use those to create an FAQ document. We are also recording the webinar, and so that recording and the FAQ document will be posted on our website, and links to those will be sent out here within the next week, just as soon as we can after today. Again, thank you for taking the time, and I'll go ahead and get started on the presentation now. Okay, in today's webinar, what we're going to be covering is discussion about the program deadlines that are coming up, the required and supplemental closeout documentation that you'll submit, the process, so where and how you're going to submit your report, what activities occur right after you submit your report as part of the closeout process, and then what are the obligations that you have that continue on past the closeout. And then also we have some subrecipient resources that have been put together. Some of those have been shared with you by email, but we will also post those on our website so that they're easily accessible for everyone. Next slide, please. All right, on this slide, you see the performance end date and the closeout report due date for each program. Adopt 1.0, that performance period ended on June 30th of 2026. We do, I think, have one or two projects maybe that had requested a short extension. So just make sure, that you are complying with the performance period end date that is part of your grant agreement if you did get an extension. Those reports are due no later than 5 p.m. on August 15th. And as we'll discuss later, all the reports will be submitted through our grant portal, just like you have been doing the monthly reporting thus far. For DOC, that is the next one that comes up with an end date, and that performance period end date is July 31st, so next week. Those reports are going to be due to KOBD by September 7th at 5 p.m. And then Adopt 2, performance end date is September 30th of 2026. Those reports will be due to KOBD November 5th by 5 p.m. It's really important to adhere to these dates, particularly with the performance period end date. We cannot reimburse any expenditures that occurred unless they were within the period of performance. So if you get invoices that are dated or you receive them after your performance period end date, as long as the service or the item, whatever it was, that you purchased it prior to the end date, that's fine. We just need to make sure that on that invoice that it clearly shows what date it was actually ordered or purchased in order to be able to reimburse that. So if you have any questions about that, you feel free to email us and let us know. But it's really important that that we see that those expenditures were incurred before the end of the performance period. We also have a pretty short window of time that we are going to have to close out the subrecipient projects before KOBD has to go ahead and close out the grants with our funding partners. And so it's going to be really critical that the deadlines are adhered to with the reports, that the information that you submit and provide to us is as current and accurate as possible, and that we get all of the documentation that is needed. And we'll be discussing that here on the next slide. So Ben, you can go ahead and move to the next slide now. All right, the required information and supplemental information that we're going to need is going to be covered on the next two slides. As far as what is required, your monthly reporting template that you've been using all along is what you will use for the closeout report. What we'll need to have you do is just to update all the tabs on there with your final information through the end of the performance period. So the narrative tab, expenditures, completion status, the metrics, those will all need to be updated. If you are an adopt subrecipient, either equipment distribution or public Wi-Fi, you should also have on your templates a federal reporting tab, and possibly two of those. So you do need to make sure and report and update that information as well. And then if you have collected any additional metrics outside of what you've been reporting to KOBD every month, or, that were outside of what your KPIs were in your grant application, feel free to add a tab to that reporting template and provide that data to us if you would like. It's not required, but if you have some great metrics that show the impact of your project that isn't something that you were generally reporting to us, we would love to see that as well. The other thing I want to call out there specifically is if you purchased equipment as part of the project, need to have you look at the definition of equipment in 2 CFR 200.1 in the uniform guidance, and see if what you purchased fits into that definition and would require you to also report out on the property records of that equipment. And there's very specific information that needs to be reported to us on that equipment. That is outlined in 2 CFR 200 313, again, part of the uniform guidance. And I've got links there on the slides to both of those references. So, and you will be getting a copy of the slides as well. So, and if you have any questions about whether you think that you need to do that, please feel free to reach out to us, and we can look at that with you and help make that determination. In terms of supporting documentation for your expenditures, we are asking that that there be a proof of expenditure and proof of payment for every expenditure that is listed on the project expenditure tab. In your report, we will need to have that information on file. And proof of expenditure could be, your invoices, receipts. A lot of folks, especially in DOC and the Adopt Digital Opportunity grants, there was a lot of personnel. And so for those, we need some sort of time and effort record that shows what amount of time was allotted to the grant and paid out for each expenditure. Those can look different depending on what your payroll systems look like. And so if you have maybe specific questions about whether or not what you are submitting is sufficient, feel free to reach out to us so that we can take a look at that and help you make that determination as well. For proof of payment, copies of checks or copies of your ACH payment transactions. I know some folks have been sending bank statements. If you do that, feel free to, redact any information that isn't specific to the expenditure for the grant that we're looking for. We are, wanting you to keep, your privacy about your records and things as much as possible, and just providing to us what we need to be able to support the documentation or support the expenditures. And it's very important to have those on file for us so that we can verify, obviously, all of the expenditures as part of the final wrap up again, but also then in the event that we have any audits down the road, then we have easy access to those records to provide to U.S. Treasury. Next slide, please. All right. A couple of other call outs here on the documentation. If you had in-kind documentation on your approved budget, or excuse me, in-kind match on your budget, we do need to have some information regarding detail of what type of in-kind that was. Was it volunteer hours, equipment, things like that, whatever it was. And then also an explanation or the methodology that was used to calculate that value. And then, as always, we enjoy seeing the highlight documentation that you can provide, or success stories. That is really important for us to have and to see and to be able to share in some of our annual reports, reports to the legislature, to show how this money was used and really how it benefited the people in your communities. So again, we encourage you to submit that type of information if you have it. And then a special call out here for the Adopt Public Wi-Fi projects. Additional documentation that is required for those is a final KMZ map of the Wi-Fi installation, and then speed and latency tests of the system. We do have a template to record the speed tests in, and that will be part of the links to that will be part of the resources that we cover later here in the presentation. But if you have any questions about that, again, please feel free to reach out to us, and we can talk through what's required for those projects specifically. There will also need to be a field validation site visit conducted for the public Wi-Fi projects before we can close out as well. Next slide, please. All right, so getting into how you will submit the report, you're going to follow the same process that you do now for the monthly reporting. Log into the portal, you'll go to the reporting module, select the broadband reporting, enter your organization name, and then select the program that you're reporting on. The next question in that process then will ask you what type of a report it is, and there's a drop-down list there. And so just instead of selecting monthly, you will select that this is your closeout report. It's important to do that just because it routes it slightly different in our Salesforce system on the back end. And so we just want to make sure that it gets recorded correctly as your closeout report. And again, it may change some of the questions that you have to answer, and then again, the documentation that you are asked to upload. So important to select that closeout option. Next slide, please. All right, a few call outs that I have in regards to the uploading the files. There are document types, options for each document type in the portal. Those, as you recall, there's one for expenditure documentation, the closeout report spreadsheet, which will be your monthly report template, and then a place to highlight upload the project highlight documentation. Those document types, you can submit or upload multiple documents under each of those if you need to. So you're not limited to just one document there. The other thing I wanted to call out was that if you have documentation that you want to provide to us, for instance, let's say that you did have to submit some property records for equipment and you wanted to put that on a different spreadsheet, or you wanted to, put that in a Word document, whatever it is, and not in your monthly reporting template, you can do that. And then you can just upload that under, like I would upload that under the closeout report spreadsheet, since it kind of supports that monthly or that template. So main takeaway there is just know that if you don't have an option specific to, the name or the type of document that you're wanting to upload, you can put it under any of those. It's still going to get to us, and there won't be any problem as long as you've named it so that we can, understand what that document is. And then for the adopt public Wi-Fi, any folks that are on here, with the KMZ map and the speed test template, we realized very recently that we don't have a specific place for you to upload those two documents. So again, just going to ask you to upload that under the closeout report spreadsheet option when you get into the portal. And then once you're done and ready to submit, you can click submit button. It goes through. You should get a notification on screen that tells you it's been submitted. You don't have to have all of the information gathered and ready to go at one point. You may be familiar with the fact that we now have the save for later button in the system. So if you want to start it and get some of it done and then come back to it later, just make sure that you hit that save for later button. And then also when you do that, you're going to kind of want to watch your screen and make sure that you see the pop-up that says it's been saved. Because otherwise, if you don't wait long enough and see that pop-up, it won't save the data that you've entered. That has recently come to our attention, so wanted to call that out specifically as well. Here, then I think that was it. So yeah, next slide, please. So once you submit your report to us, there are a few things that take place. We will review that, go through all of your documentation, make sure everything is in order. If we have any questions or we need some additional information or documents, we will reach out and request that of you. If everything is in order, then we will go ahead and schedule a final closeout meeting. That's about, usually we schedule it for 30 minutes. And that just allows us to kind of go through all the final numbers, make sure we agree on total budget expended, total match that you expended, and kind of talk through that, and make sure, again, that we're in agreement. Give you an opportunity to provide us feedback about the project, the process, all of that. And then once that is done, we will issue the final payment with the next batch of monthly payments. And then if a payment is due, or is made, then we will send you a formal closeout letter the month after that payment is issued. If for some reason there was no final payment due, then we send that closeout letter the last day of the month following the closeout meeting. So either way, you will receive a formal closeout letter from us, showing that everything has been wrapped up. If there was any unspent funds, it'll show that that has been deobligated, and everything will be taken care of that way. Next slide, please. All right. There are some ongoing obligations after the award is closed out that I wanted to go over with you. The first of those is record retention. You are required, and it was in your grant agreements, that you need to preserve all project files and documentation for at least 5 years from December 31st, 2026. And the reason that it's from that date instead of like the date that you close out your award is because it is 5 years from the date that the program closes out by Treasury, and that is at the end of this year. For those of you who are nonprofits, primarily, you do want to make sure that you comply with the single audit requirements that are outlined in 2 CFR 200 subpart F. That is if you are a nonprofit and you expend more than $750,000 across all or any federal grants that you have in your fiscal year. And I'm sure many of you are familiar with that process, but it is something that you do have to comply with if it's applicable to your organization. And then if you do submit a or have to have a single audit, once you get that and it's completed, it does have to be uploaded into the federal database. And then we're also asking that you submit a copy of that to KOBD by emailing that to our general inbox there. The address is on the screen. This is because we have ongoing duties to review those and ensure that any findings that may have come up relevant to our programs are addressed by you. So just flagging that for you as well. And then in the grant agreement, there was a section on confidentiality and open records. I would just ask everyone to review that and adhere to those requirements as if they're applicable to you. One of the items in there, I think, was specific to data around participants in some of the programs in that. So I think for our digital opportunity subrecipients, that is going to be more relevant probably than the public Wi-Fi, but I would ask everybody to just review that again and make sure you're familiar with those requirements. Next slide, please. All right, and then there is another specific post-award closeout obligation that applies only to the Adopt Public Wi-Fi projects, and that is the federal interest period. And so you will be required to adhere to the property standards set out by Treasury until December 31st of 2034. And I won't read every single one of these. There's actually 9 specific items here over the next few slides. This is essentially saying that the title to the property or equipment acquired or improved through the award vests in the ISP for the duration of the federal interest period, only if you adhere to these standards that are laid out, these 9 standards. And so it talks about use of property for the authorized purposes per the grant agreement. And then next slide, continuing to provide the internet service to the areas as you initially agreed upon between Commerce and yourself in your grant agreement. This one is not specifically relevant to the public Wi-Fi, but rather to other infrastructure grants, and that's the participating in federal programs to provide low-income consumers with subsidies. Talks also about requiring insurance, use and management of the equipment. Next slide, maintaining your records of the property. And then it also impacts if you choose to dispose of the project property. in different ways. It addresses that as well, and including selling or transferring. And then if God forbid that there should be a bankruptcy, we don't want that to happen. But if that were to happen, then it also governs some information as well with that. And so I've also put a link here. There is some additional information for subrecipients on the U.S. Treasury website specific to this for capital fund projects, which is the ADOPT grants were funded by capital projects funds. And you may want to review those that information on the U.S. Treasury website as well, just to become more familiar with those obligations. Next slide, please. All right, and then these are the subrecipient resources that we have available to help you. I believe that these have all been emailed out to subrecipients. But we do have them available on our website, again, just in case you don't want to go searching for an email, and it's easier just to look on our website. We've got them linked here, and we'll send that out. These checklists will go through in great detail about the information you need to put together, again, for the closeout, steps you need to take. So those are really helpful documents to look over. The public Wi-Fi speed test template is linked here. And then also the broadband reporting user guide, which has a specific chapter on the closeout process, including step-by-step instructions to walk you through it in case that's needed. Next slide, please. And then we are also going to provide opportunities for one-on-one technical assistance sessions during the month of August. If you would like to book those, they're 30-minute sessions where you can ask us, specific questions, run scenarios by us. If you have things that you want to visit about before you submit your report or in the process of preparing it, the link there will take you to the website to book those sessions. And they are scheduled, I believe, if I remember correctly, every day, Monday through Friday, the entire month. And there's just blocks of time every day that are there and available for you to sign up. You also can reach out to myself and Joshua or Christy for assistance. Myself and Josh have been working primarily with the DOC 1 and DOC 2 subrecipients. Christy's been working with the ADOPT subrecipients. So again, feel free to email us if you have a question, and then we can either get you booked for a technical assistance session, or we can schedule a call offline if we need to do that and talk through something. I would just ask that if you email us directly, that you also copy our KOBD general inbox at kdc_broadband@ks.gov. And that is just to ensure that if we happen to be out of the office or unavailable for a period of time, then somebody will see your email and be able to assist you and get you to another person that can help you, so that you're not just waiting on our return to get back to you. So next slide, please. All right, so that is the presentation. I went through that pretty fast and furious, so I think we have plenty of time for questions, and I see that some have been popping up into the chat, so
there is Marie. This is Ben Stanton, Public Affairs Manager. I just wanted to go back, Marie, to a question that was asked earlier on that I believe let's see, Carrie asks, I just want to make sure this got addressed, but she says, what type of documentation is accepted for time and effort records? Is payroll journal reporting sufficient, or do you require additional documentation?
I believe the payroll journal reporting is sufficient. I will make a note and double check that. I don't know. Jessica, do you happen to be on here? I don't think she is, but yeah. So I will run that. Jessica is our federal reporting and compliance manager. And so I will double check that with her, Carrie, and then we'll get back to you on that.
Very good. And then Ashley had a question here for the final closeout meeting. She's assuming that's by Teams. Wants to know if that needs to be in person. And do you want all staff members involved for the project or just the project lead?
It does not need to be. First, it will be by Teams, yes. And it does not need to be everyone involved with the project. It can just be the lead. If depending on your organization, I know that sometimes we have someone from the accounting or finance department if they handled the money part of it, and then somebody that handled more of the day-to-day actual project implementation. So you can invite as many people as you want, or you don't have to invite anyone other than yourself as the main contact for the project.
Okay, and Brenda has a question here. She said, we're using a labor rate. So do we need anything besides an invoice? Labor rate is also being used for some cost share.
That's another one I'm going to take back and double check with Jessica and make sure that I provide the correct answer. So Brenda, we will get back to you on that. And what we'll do with these questions, and then if we get any more in the coming days, we will keep a FAQ document online as well, so other people can access it as well.
Okay, and then Helen says, anything different for contracted individuals who are not employees?
So what we would need if you've contracted with somebody is just like they should be invoicing you and showing, what that was, what they did or how many hours. And that's what we would need to see. So if they're teaching classes, Helen, we would expect some sort of an invoice that they sent to you, identifying either how many classes they taught, how many hours it was, however your contract was set up to pay them for the services. We would expect to see an invoice of some sort that matches to that way of paying them.
Just another invitation to put your question or comment in the chat there. If you'd prefer or need to vocalize your question, feel free. You should be able to unmute yourself, but if not, then go ahead and click that little hand that raises your hand, and I can see if I can do that.
And I think I would just stress again, there were some folks who had not provided some documentation to us at different points throughout the program. And so we do need to have all of that. So for every expenditure that is on your expenditure report, which should be, from the start of the program to the end, all on one cumulative report here at the end. We do need to see that. So again, if we're missing something, we will reach out to you, but just know that we do need that. And I think I had put that in my email to the doc subrecipients a few weeks ago to try and give folks as much time as possible to start gathering that.
Well, I don't see any other questions in the chat or hands raised. I will say I'll be putting together getting the recording of this webinar and the slide deck and links and resources and things, and we'll make sure that email goes out. I think by the end of the week could be very much a possibility, but this important email address that you see on your screen there and I'm putting in the chat is a very good one. If nothing else, you have that to contact us. Yeah.
And I would also just add real quick before we close. Again, I know some of you have dealt with a lot of grants and are probably very familiar with closing them out. Some are not so much. So we are here to help you. We want to make this as easy and successful as possible for you. So please don't hesitate to reach out to us. If you're running into any problems, because the faster we know about it, the more we may be able to help and not rush everything at the very end. So again, please feel free to reach out.
And there is a hand raised, Christy. I see you have your hand raised. Can you unmute? Yeah, go ahead and ask your question.
Yes, well, it's not a question, it's kind of a statement. As far as the single audits go, the threshold increased from 750 to 1 million. But please keep in mind, that is what you receive in total federal awards. So just not this award, but all that your entity has received through the fiscal year. That was it.
Yeah. And I think, Christy, just to double check, it's actually expended during a fiscal year, right? So
correct. Yes.
Yeah.
Expended 1 million. Yeah, for all total federal awards.
And thank you, Christy. And for those that don't know, Christy works at Widow Bryant's, which is our consultant that helps us out with many processes, and we're grateful for their help. Thanks for being on, Christy.
Yes, you're welcome.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you all very much. Again, I appreciate you taking the time to join us this afternoon. I hope, that this helped answered a few questions and maybe made the process for some of you seem a little less daunting. I hope so. But again, if we are available for questions, should you have any. So please don't ever hesitate to reach out to us. All right. Thank you all so much, and you have a good rest of your day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thanks.
Bye.